Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Olson from the Smart Weight Loss Coaching Podcast. I've been working with Julia for almost 100 episodes now, and she has really helped me grow my podcast from basically just my parents, my husband and kids, and my sister as listeners to over 17,000 downloads. I mean, the amount that she expanded my audience went way beyond my expectations. She really blew my mind. I have quadrupled the number of downloads over the past 12 months. Julia has been so much more than just my podcast teacher. She has been like a partner to me, really taking an interest in my program and helping me more than I ever could have asked for. I highly recommend Julia.
How amazing is that? I am so grateful that Dr. Lisa shared her experience. And if her story resonated with you and you're thinking, wait, I want results like that too, that is exactly what we're doing inside the Podcast Growth Collective. It's the place for online business owners who want to turn podcasting into a powerful growth tool without the burnout and without guessing what to fix. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and finally start seeing results from your podcast, I would love to support you. Head to thepodcastteacher.com/collective to learn more and to join us. And now let's jump into today's episode. Welcome to Podcasting for Introverts. I'm Julia Levine, aka the Podcast Teacher. I'm a fellow introvert, entrepreneur, and educator. If you want to start a podcast and expand your reach without social media, this is the show for you. Let's get started. Hey, and welcome back. Today I have another pop episode for you. I have reviewed someone's podcast and have created a podcast optimization plan to make their podcast pop. If you are a current or aspiring podcaster, listen in as a fly on the wall for our conversation. I guarantee that you'll find something of value in this episode that you can apply to your current or future podcast. If you'd like to chat with me about how we can make your podcast pop, you can schedule your own free call with me at thepodcastteacher.com/pop. Today, I'm chatting with Jackson Kuebler, host of the Two Consoles Too Late podcast, about how to optimize his show's discoverability. We talked about how to get people to find and choose his show organically without a lot of marketing effort. If that sounds like something you want to, keep listening. So the first thing I wanted to say is that, your show is good. Your audio sounds pretty good. I like the noises like from the different video games. That's kind of fun, gives an ambiance. I like the fact that you have different segments in there, like the auction alert and your stick it segment, like that kind of thing. That really creates a routine and structure to your episodes, which is great. And I do have a few suggestions for you of things that you can do. So I think that your biggest problem is just discoverability, like people finding your show. And so from my perspective, I have 3 particular things that I identified that you can do to kind of help with that discoverability aspect.
Okay.
So the first thing that I would suggest is that you add a subtitle to your show. So the title of Two Consoles Too Late, it's fun, it's kind of quirky, like it implies the content, but you're not going to show up in the search results for someone who's looking for a video game podcast.
Okay.
So I would suggest adding a subtitle. And a subtitle, you never have to say it. You don't even have to put it on your cover art. It's literally put into the text field so that you come up in the search.
Okay.
That's its sole purpose. So I like the formula of having your main part of your title and then following it by blank for blank. So what for who?
Okay.
And so for you, I just came up with a quick draft of Two Consoles Too Late, retro video games and video game news for gamers, geeks, and pop culture enthusiasts.
Okay.
And, my husband told me that geeks is the correct word here. I'll let
Okay.
your discretion of what your audience calls themselves.
All right.
Um, but he's into some games. So I was like, what word would go here? What word is not offensive? But
Right. I just changed my podcast icon. So I have explore and retro video game sales and reviews. But then you're saying so take that and just add a 4.
so yeah, so on your cover art, you kind of have that subtitle-ish there,
Yeah.
but that is not in your text field of your title.
Okay.
So in your podcast host, which I believe is Spotify for podcasters, Anchor.
Yeah.
So when you're entering the title, I want you to put all of those words into the title field.
Okay.
And the reason for that is so that it comes up in the search results. And literally the goal here is thinking, okay, what is my person that I'm trying to reach? What are they typing into their search bar? They're probably typing in video games. They might be typing in podcasts for gamers. So I like the word gamers. They might be typing in geek podcasts. They might be typing in, so I only listened to a couple episodes to get an idea. So I don't know
Okay.
if you have a lens, but I could see someone typing in like 80s pop culture podcasts or 90s pop culture podcasts, kind of whatever. So just trying to get at whatever people might be typing into their search bar that your show could fill the need that they're searching for.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's when I talk about persona, it's, at the intro of the show, I always say, I am Jackson Kuebler and I am Two Consoles Too Late. The whole kind of thing is that, like, okay, COVID happened. A lot of people had nothing to do. I got back into video games and I just kind of like went down the rabbit hole and I'm just kind of like finding this stuff out for the first time, So I'm like, a lot of times I'm just really out of my element. Like I started playing this one game Fallout, and it seems like everyone knows about this game except for me. And that's kind of like the joke of Two Consoles Too Late is that
Right.
I'm really late to the party on this. And, that's kind of like the fun of the podcast of, the impetus, I guess, behind what I say persona.
Yeah. And just from the couple episodes that I listened to, like I got that. I got that kind of joke, if you will, the implication there. So I think that's great. I don't think you necessarily need to change the main title, still run with that and still lean into the, hey, here I am just joining the party type of thing. Because I'm sure other people can relate to that as well. But again, for the discoverability factor, just putting some of those keywords into your title. So I don't know if you happen to listen to my episode on podcast SEO, but that's basically what we're doing here.
Yes.
And so the title field is the most important field for your search. So cramming some of those words in there.
Got it. Retro video games, geeks.
And those, again, are just things that kind of I came up with. Obviously, your niche a whole lot better than I do. So pick whatever words you think would fit best. I just wanted to kind of give you an example of like the kind of thing we're going for. And you can swap out words that would be the best fit for your audience.
Okay. All right. So SEO.
Yeah, so my first suggestion there is a subtitle. And then the second solution that I have for you for discoverability is kind of along the similar lines as for your episode titles. So in your episode titles, I noticed that you're putting the title of your show as the first thing. Don't do that. That is redundant and it's not helping you with the search.
Okay.
So I would take that out for sure. And then the hashtags. So podcasts don't work off of hashtags like social media does.
Okay.
And so some of the words that you're putting in those hashtags are good words to use, but I would take out the actual hashtag symbol.
Okay.
And then I would try and focus on like kind of what the main topic of that episode is, like in the title. So, if you are focusing, 60% of the episode is about a specific game, like put that game in the title. And then in the description, the little like byline of what the episode is about, there you can put some of that other stuff like, the Orioles or whatever, like my experience here. But you kind of want to grab people who are kind of skimming and you want them to see, hey, this episode largely focuses on this. I'm interested in this, so I'm going to click on it.
All right. That makes sense. So can I just go back into Spotify and just like, would it be good just to rework all the titles for all the episodes?
Yes.
I mean, it's a lot of work, but I'd rather do that because one question I had for you is like, I've considered just completely like just rebooting the entire thing. Just going back to square one, starting, okay, this is now the new episode 1. And I've thought about that, but I'm not sure if that would be a smart idea because I do have interviews that I've done with people, and I'm not sure if they were like, hey, I was on a podcast, check it out, and then suddenly have it gone. See, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, so I would probably keep it the same and just kind of make these modifications moving forward.
Okay.
That would definitely be the priority, is with every new episode, really hone in on that title. So I encourage people to pick what I call a primary keyword. So like the number one thing that your podcast is about. So for me, it's podcasting. That's my primary keyword. And so when you type in podcasting tips, how to do podcasting, that kind of thing, my show pops up. And so we want to do the same thing for yours. So whatever that primary keyword is, I'm speculating that it's video games, but you obviously get to make that executive decision. So whatever that keyword is, incorporate that into as many of your episode titles as well. So if you'll notice my episodes, almost every single one of my titles has the word podcasting in there, and that is very deliberate. So same concept, pick that keyword and just hammer it over and over and over, every single title, every single time.
Got it. All right. So I could definitely do that. Great.
Yeah. And you asked about going back and doing the old titles. I would go back and change them. Obviously, this is not your full-time job. I would work in reverse chronological order. So with the, last week's episode, the week before, like working backwards, just whenever you have time to do that.
Okay. Perfect.
And then the third solution that I have for you is maybe redoing your cover art. So I don't know if that's what you had just redone. You had mentioned
I just redid it. Yeah.
So it's not, it's not ugly or anything like that. I don't want you to think that's what I'm saying. But in terms of, again, we're looking at first impressions. We're looking at people search something like video games, podcasts pop up, and we want them to immediately know that your show fits their need. And so I would love to see something like, a video game controller or a console or something that is like goof proof obvious that this is a podcast about video games, about gaming, that kind of thing.
All right.
Remember, you're thinking about the stranger that has no idea who you are, no idea what your content is, no idea what your personality is. They don't know anything other than the title of your show and that picture. That's your cover art. That's all the information they have.
All right. Well, those are 3 very easily done projects.
Yeah, and I have just a couple other notes for you. Like, those are the main 3 things that I wanted to tell you. Like, these 3 things are going to move your podcast forward in the discoverability area. And I try not to give people too many things to focus on because I know it can be overwhelming. But I did notice that there was kind of some sporadic release of episodes.
Yeah, it was weekly, and then I put it down for a while. Then I came back, and then, I try to stay consistent with it. And, recently it's been like every 2 weeks. But then if I don't have a game, I don't want to, excuse my French, I don't want to have a BS episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to create an episode for an episode's sake sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like this past weekend, I was like, I should make a podcast, but I've got nothing, I'm not playing a new game. I might be shopping for something, so that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah. And I will say that I typically work with people who are using their podcast as a tool for business. And so, as a hobbyist podcast, that's a different aspect. But I do know that consistency builds a relationship with listeners, builds trust, and that continuity factor. Like you feel like you're friends. I have certain podcasts that I listen to that they don't know who the heck I am, but I'm like, oh yeah, my friends,
Yeah.
because I feel like they're my friends because I listen to them every week. So when there's that consistency, that regularity, that helps that factor.
That's another thing, is just kind of like getting another voice on the podcast, because it's been frustrating, because I've noticed that the episodes where I have someone on and I do an interview, the numbers go up,
Mm-hmm.
but if it's just me talking about, Shadowrun or whatever, it's like, well, okay, some people want to hear about it, but most people don't. So, and a lot of podcasts I listen to, there's two hosts,
Mm-hmm.
and they have that dynamic, that back and forth, which I like, and I've always wanted for the podcast. And it's just been a matter of finding a co-host. I don't really know anyone personally that would want to do the podcast with me, and finding the right stranger is pretty hard. And it's just something I've always been kind of thinking of, is like, do I need someone else in this, or am I just enough?
I think the better question to ask is, what is the listener getting out of this? Like, why is it worth their time? And so is it information? Is it entertainment? Is it like camaraderie, feeling like, hey, Jackson didn't like this game either. I didn't like it. We have that thing in common. I'm not alone in the world, that type of thing.
Right.
So I don't think the question is, are you enough? I think it's, what is my listener getting out of this? Why is it worth their time to tune in? And so maybe think about, what aspects, aside from the dynamic duo between two hosts, like what do you tune in for to those podcasts? What do you get out of it? Why is it worth your time to tune into it? And then flip that back to your show.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it's like, when I do the podcast, I do like an outline, but I try to make it entertaining, but sometimes it just doesn't come across, and it just sort of comes out flat.
And we can't knock them all out of the park. My episode that I did last week, like I finished recording it and I was like, man, I am not happy with this episode, but you know what? It is what it is this week. And so there we go.
Okay.
So give yourself a little grace. They're not
Okay.
all going to be winners.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. I think you pretty much answered all my questions. Thanks, and good luck to you.
All right, that's all for today. If you're into retro video games, be sure to check out Jackson's podcast, Two Consoles Too Late. And if you'd like to chat with me about how we can make your podcast pop, you can schedule your own free call with me at thepodcastteacher.com/pop. Until next week, happy podcasting. Thanks for listening. If something in this episode resonated with you and you're thinking about starting your own podcast, I have a free resource that will help you. It's called The Podcast Roadmap: 10 Simple Steps to Launch Your Own Podcast, No Fancy Tech Required. Just head to thepodcastteacher.com/roadmap to grab it.